Hey everyone, this podcast is part of Story Mode, the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. You can support us and gain access to other great exclusive podcasts at patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds.
Duology Theater was made possible by producer Nolan Matten. Thank you, Nolan. It was also made possible by contributions from listeners like you. Hi, everyone.
Hello, every people.
Welcome to Duology Theater.
Yes, welcome.
Yeah. I am one of your hosts, David Bell.
I am a second of your hosts, Tom Ryman.
Yeah, if you've been keeping up, this is a series, a limited podcast series, where we look at famous duologies of films, films with only one other sequel, and we talk about a new one every month.
Indeed we do. That's accurate.
Yeah, that is accurate. Thank you. Thank you, Tom.
Mm-hmm.
This is July, and for the month of July, we chose the Tron series.
We did.
Earlier this month, we covered Tron. You can go back and listen to that. And today, we're covering the sequel, Tron Legacy.
Mm-hmm. The 2010 film Tron Legacy. I was going to say smash hit, but that is not accurate.
It didn't do good, right?
I mean, it made $400 million on a budget of $170, so it didn't do bad, but it probably did not perform what they wanted it to.
It did good in my heart. This is director Joseph Kosinski, who had done Oblivion. Was going to. I forget if Oblivion is before or after this. Mm-hmm. He is now doing Top Gun.
He is, yeah.
The movie that should have been out by now. Something that is clear in both Oblivion and this movie is the fact that he was an architect before he was a director.
Yeah, that checks out.
Yeah. This is also produced by the original director of Tron, what's his name? Steven Lisberger. Mm-hmm. He also has a writing credit on this. It's got Jeff Bridges back as Kevin Flynn.
Does, as Kevin Flynn.
It's got Olivia Wilde.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's got some guy.
Yeah,
as
some
Sam Flynn.
Fucking dude. I don't know who Garrett Hedlund. Sure.
Okay. I mean, I'm sure he's a fine actor. I didn't recognize him from anything but this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, Tom, you know my thoughts on Tron.
Yes.
You hadn't watched.
You've been trying to get me to watch this movie for like 6 years now.
Yeah, pretty much. I enjoy the first one. I think this sequel is better. What are your thoughts on Tron Legacy for your first time ever watching?
I enjoyed it fine.
Sure, I'll take it.
I have a similar problem that I did with the first film, where the world just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, as a computer, I might be able to fill in a little bit of the gaps. But you have to sort of, because the first Tron, the stakes are so low. Yeah. It's literally Flynn has to print out a document.
Yes.
This one, they knew to make the stakes higher.
Yeah, comically so.
Yes.
Yeah, he's going to invade Earth with a bunch of programs, but it's like, the idea of this universe, it has never clicked for me. Like the idea that, oh, they're all programs, but they just kind of walk around and act like normal people, like they're all in a nightclub, clearly trying to fuck.
Well, that's the thing that you have to like kind of let go of. And the first movie, it's worse, I'd say, because when this movie was made, there's like video games and Second Life and like the idea that there can be running like a simulation of a world in a computer doesn't seem as weird. Especially since he goes into a specific server that's supposed to be doing that. The first Tron, he discovers it.
Yeah. Yes, but why?
Right.
Why?
Well,
why any of this?
It's reverse Matrix, because the implication of the first movie is so bizarre, because it's basically the implication is that office computers
this is what's going on inside every computer, and it's why did the games still exist? I don't understand what the games have to do with anything Clue is trying to do.
You could argue that I know why Clue did the games specifically. It's supposed to be like a dystopian society where they use the games to keep the masses occupied. But you could argue that.
Well, why doesn't he just brainwash everybody?
Because he can't. He can rewrite programs.
Yes,
they do say that.
Mm-hmm. So why doesn't he just do that to everybody? I like the fact that he rounds people up and decides whether to send them to the games or to rectification doesn't make sense to me. He would just, this character who's trying to build a perfect world, he would just send everybody to rectification.
Right, and to build his army.
Mm-hmm.
I assume what's going on is that the way they're judging is if a program is broken, they just send it to the games to be destroyed. It's a destruction program. The games,
yes,
there's no winning the games.
Yes, but why?
I don't know.
It's
okay. Well, all right. Here's my best. I'm going to start by saying, yeah, you're probably right here. But if I were to try to justify it, it's that they're all programmed imperfectly. They touch on that with Clue. Is that he was programmed to be modeled after Flynn. He represents Flynn's younger, flawed self because he was programmed by Flynn's younger, flawed self. And I think the idea with the games is that, in the first Tron, the computers just happen to have those games because Flynn invented them, and they're embedded in the system. If you could argue that maybe the first computer in Tron is special because the master control program created this world. So not every office computer has this. It's just this company.
Mm-hmm.
But because it was created, I think, with the games embedded within it, it's part of them. So they don't know, they're imperfect creatures. They don't think like us. So everything is run through the games because it's part of the world that they were programmed into. That would be my argument for the games, is that it's because if these worlds existed in every computer, they'd all be vastly different based on the information that had originally been put in them. But the idea of this specific world, if you watch behind the scenes, which I did because I own the Blu-ray,
sure,
they talk about it as this is a land that has been left to evolve on its own is part of it too. So it has this original programming which the games were involved in. Everything kind of, once Flynn gets trapped, everything sort of just progresses the way it would naturally progress at that point. And it's become this weird dystopia where Clue is, again, he's an embodiment of Flynn at his most obsessive and flawed as a person, which is why this movie has a lot of meaning behind it, I would say. But my point is that you have to sort of, it's like asking where Neverland is. It's you have to get past the logic of it as a computer, and accept that this is just a world.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's just.
It's not the smartest movie.
I never really understood why anyone was doing anything. How does Jeff Bridges have a roast pig inside this
I wrote
computer?
that note too. I'm not sure.
How is he making
I don't
food?
know why they even need to eat.
Why do the programs need to eat? What are they drinking?
I'm guessing they don't. I'm guessing that they just do it because they've been programmed to do it.
But
somewhere along
why
the line.
Would you ever program a program to do that?
I don't know, man. Because Flynn took a lot of drugs.
Yeah, he clearly did.
Yeah. No, Flynn's out of his mind. Yeah, for people who I guess haven't watched this, the idea is that it's however many years later from the first, and Flynn he had a son, and then he disappeared, and his son has grown up, and he's become very jaded, and the company is being run by Scarecrow.
No, he's not running it.
Oh, right, he's just helping.
He's just one of their programmers.
Yeah, it's Dillinger's son, played by Cillian Murphy, in a bizarre cameo.
Right, he is not credited.
No, I maybe he's a Tron fan. This has one of my favorite cameos though in it, which is Daft Punk as the DJs.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're just so Daft Punk about it.
Right, they change the music when the bad guys attack. Like they look at each other and they're like, "Yeah, we need to mix this up."
The movie specifically cuts to them looking at each other and changing the music.
Yeah,
which I found delightful. Michael Sheen also just having a great time.
Yeah. I thought that whole interaction was kind of pointless. That was kind of just to make the movie longer.
Yes, well, a big part of Tron, I think a big part of Tron is just look how cool this thing is that we made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, like, that entire scene, like, they could cut Michael Sheen out of the movie.
Yes, they could.
But it was very clear that someone was like, I want to have this in the movie because it's cool. Mm-hmm. And they were like, sure. And I think that's the ultimate truth about Tron, the first movie, this movie, is that it's nonsense.
Yeah, it's a tech demo of a movie.
Yeah, it's absolute nonsense. The character Tron is baffling in this. He has a sudden change of heart.
For no reason. Just because he looked at Flynn, who he's already seen.
Yep. They're like, we need this to happen. And then they just make it happen.
He falls into the digital ocean, and his lights change back from red to blue, and then we don't see him again.
Well, they're setting up the sequel. They're setting up like, oh shit, what's going to happen to Tron? We have to get another movie to find out.
Yeah, that was weird that they took the time to show us that and just never come back to the character.
Well, I just interpreted that as that's where we're leaving him. It's just it's open ended for Tron because he's not he's not even an important character. Even in the first one, he's not. The movie's just named after him.
Yeah, we brought that up last episode. It's bizarre that the movie is named after an extremely secondary character.
It's kind of one of my favorite things about this series. Is the first movie I feel like was written by, I'm just guessing, a person on drugs, or like just again a person who was like, we just need to get, I said in the first one, the reason the character is called Tron and the movie's called Tron is because they made a character for a separate tech demo, and they named him Tron because it was short for electronic, and that was the extent. And I think they named the movie Tron because they were like, well, what else are we going to name it? Flynn? No, Tron. It's a cool name. It's all just cool stuff with very little like meaning behind it.
Yeah.
In terms of the actual practical story.
Yes, it's gibberish. Mm-hmm. It's also pretty much the same as the first movie.
Yes, it's a reboot. Yeah. It's like they go through the same motions. He escapes from the games. Mm-hmm. They have to take the solar sail.
They have to take the solar train. Yep. Back to the pyramid where they fight the bad guy. It's just the same movie again.
Mm-hmm. They up the stakes, and it looks better.
Yeah, but goddamn that young Jeff Bridges, man.
This is the problem. Is that I had set up this movie to you as a movie with some of the best visual effects,
and also
known for some of the worst.
Also, one of the worst.
Yes, because in the behind the scenes they talk about the technology, and it's very new. And Jeff Bridges at one point he says like. He looks at the camera while wearing all the dots, and he's just like, just you wait. They'll all be wearing this in a couple years. And it's like, you're not wrong, Jeff Bridges.
Yeah.
Because they knew they were in the right direction, but it wasn't ready.
Yeah. It looks like ass and balls. Like he looks like a video game cutscene character.
He looks horrifying. He looks worse than video game. Like if you put him next to like The Last of Us, the new one, I think he'd look worse. It wouldn't look as realistic. Maybe, I don't know. He's so creepy.
Yeah, it's real weird.
When the first scene, and this is the key flaw of this movie, you get used to him.
You do.
You could argue that Clue, when he's Clue, you could be like, well, it's in the computer.
He's a computer program, yeah.
Yeah. But the first scene, the movie, starts with what I think is one of the coolest opening titles, with that Daft Punk music of the city.
Yeah.
And the music kicks in at just the right time.
Yeah.
And it's so satisfying. And they zoom into Flynn's house, and he's talking to his son, and his back is turned, and they treat it like a reveal because they wanted to be like, look at this shit. Because again, it's all about look how cool.
Yes,
it is. But when he turns around, I thought the kid would scream.
What monstrosity has replaced my father?
Dad, your face! He'd look in the mirror like, oh my God!
My God,
oh,
Dad,
no!
your face! What's happened to you?
Tears his own face.
Is it a demon?
Off.
It's a demon.
Yeah. It's such a shame because everything else around.
Yeah, everything else looks really cool.
Good.
The other thing, like the sort of dumbness of Tron is on display too, additionally in the games scene, because Clue is wearing a helmet for no reason. The only reason he's wearing a helmet is so he can reveal himself to us. Because he is the ruler of this place. Everybody knows who he is.
It's his game-watching helmet.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense why he's watching the games in a face-covering helmet with a voice distorter. And they do the same thing with Olivia Wilde. It's like it's just so they can reveal that it's Olivia Wilde. Like,
I know exactly why they did it for Clue. If you go back and watch what happened with this movie, is that Disney wasn't like the first Tron. Disney was like, I don't know. They got the script and they're like, make us a test footage, a test trailer. And they showed it at Comic-Con, and it got a huge reaction. Specifically, it's the light bike scene, or it's a light bike scene, and it's one guy in a helmet versus another guy in a helmet. One guy takes out another guy. He takes off his helmet. It's young Flynn, and that was huge. So they clearly wanted to do that again, but he's not on a bike.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
My argument is it doesn't matter.
I mean, it kind of matters. I mean,
not to me.
It prevents me from fully embracing these movies because it's just like everything is so dumb and the story doesn't make any sense and I don't understand what the world is. Like,
it makes, to me, enough sense. Because I think, all right, this is what the charm of this movie is, that the original Tron, again, like maybe written by a guy on drugs, and what's so fun is to watch them then now have to very seriously translate that world into a new, like, grittier version, and it's nonsense.
Yes, it is.
Tron is, I think it's actually more of an abstract film than it lets on. And that's a big part of it, is that, like we talked about the first Tron, having a lot of symbolism for, like, a corporate world and conformity and just being a program and a cog in the machine. They do a lot of that in this, and I think it has another meaning. Like, some of the imagery and lines are mirrored, like the door, when he hacks the door, says something like, oh, that's a big door.
He says the same thing Jeff Bridges said in the first movie.
When he goes into the server room, it looks like the room full of the cubicles. And I think what this movie is more about is it's almost about boomers, or it doesn't have to be specifically boomers. That just happens to be the generation in that place right now, because I think it happens to everybody. It's the idea of being idealistic and young and starting something, thinking you're going to save the world, and the world not getting saved and rejecting the idea that it should be given to a new generation. And Clue represents that worst, like, it represents Flynn at his most ambitious, and the idea that he's going to change the world. And then the what is they called, the ISOs, kind of represent like the new generation that came in, that was like, no, these are the people who are going to save the world, through a more compassionate view and a more humble perspective, and like a childlike look. And Clue rejects it. And I like, it's the same with like NCOM, like the idea that it was supposed to be this like it's like it's Apple, you know? It's like Flynn's company that was supposed to be like, yeah, we're going to give things away for free and stuff like that. And then it just becomes another shitty corporation in the end. And I think that's what this movie is mainly about.
I don't know. I think you're giving it a lot of credit because Clue is not old. Like, Jeff Bridges is the one who actually ages, and when he's the age of like the previous generation, he wants to give it to the next generation.
Well, Clue is old. He just doesn't look old.
Well, he's only 20 years old.
But also Flynn represents another side of it, I think, because he's given up. He's the version where he's like, there's no use. When his son shows up and wants to change things, he pushes back, and he has to slowly like let his son take over and destroy himself. Like, that's the whole, like, Flynn is the height of that hubris, of that feeling. Jeff Bridges is like the other side of the coin, because they both represent the same character at two different points in their life. I think the idea is, if Clue didn't go bad, Jeff Bridges thinks about what he could have been. Because Jeff Bridges is like...
Yeah, I don't know. I still think it doesn't quite work, because Clue is technically his son as well as Sam is. And they're roughly the same age. Even though Clue looks like middle-aged Jeff Bridges, he's actually closer to Sam in age. So I don't know that quite works.
Oh, that is true, because Clue was created around the same time Sam was. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Most likely after.
Right. I still think, I mean, maybe I'm putting too much on the generation side of it, but it is about, like, having this great intention to want to fix the world, and then having to face the fact that your way wasn't the right way.
I think that's more true. Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's what Flynn's going through. And when we meet Flynn, old Flynn, he is already have accepted that idea, that he was wrong. So like, it's deep, man.
Sure, yeah. Tron Legacy is way deep, bro.
Tron Legacy is way deep.
Yeah.
I like that he has... Oh, go on.
Oh, whatever you were going to say is probably more interesting than I had.
No, it's not. For the first time watching this, I noticed that on his shelf are the bits from the first Tron.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, it's cute.
He puts them up there, yeah. I liked some of the dumb jokes in it.
Like what?
Like when he's talking, Sam's talking to Cora, and she says, like, I've read all the philosophy books and stuff, but between you and me, Jules Verne is really my favorite. And he's like, oh, okay. And she's like, do you know Verne? And he's like, yeah, sure. And she's like, what is he like?
Yeah. Olivia Wilde's killing it.
Yeah, she's great.
I think everybody's good, even that guy whose name I don't remember anymore.
He's fine.
He's fine.
Yeah, he's fine.
I really like Jeff Bridges' performance, because we talked about this when we were doing the podcast about the Old Guard, which is that they're characters who are supposed to be thousands of years old, and they just talk like people. In this, Flynn is a man who has been trapped in a computer since the 80s.
Yeah.
And he talks like he's from the 80s.
He does, yeah.
I really appreciated that. It's hard to tell because it's also just Jeff Bridges.
Right. It's very dude-like.
Yeah. So like when he's in his weird Zen house, it's just like, well, this is just how I imagine Jeff Bridges living.
This is just probably what Jeff Bridges does when he's not working.
But he says stuff like radical man. And,
yeah.
You're harshing my zen or whatever.
Yep, he does say that. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, I think part of him it represents like kind of the laid back boomer, who's like, everything sucks, man. Like, I do think there's something to be said about the fact that he gets trapped in the 80s, and now these are characters from the 80s interacting with characters who are from now being 10 years ago.
Yeah.
At this point. I think it feels like there's something there. Like, for example, when Sam Flynn's son starts telling him about the world, he starts by talking about climate change and like the way the world is falling apart.
Yeah.
And so I think maybe again it's not a generation thing as much as it is that Sam starts in an apathetic state as well. He's like, what's the use? You know, he's just doing sweet extreme sports. Oh, I wanted to talk about that because that is the most dedicated security guard I've ever seen in a movie.
He climbs up on a crane after him. It's like, dude.
Even the main character says something to him like, whoa. like, be careful. Like, it's just like, yeah, who the fuck would ever do that?
Yeah, they must be paying him a lot.
Yep. He then skydives off the building and lands on the most dedicated taxi driver ever, who just continues to drive with him on it.
And is trying to kill him. Like, he doesn't pull over.
Yeah.
Like, he's swerving all over the road trying to throw this human being off of the top of his car.
Immediately. It's two of the most bizarre characters.
Yeah, it's a real... This movie... It's a hell of an opening.
It really is. I get it, though. I get what they were trying to do because I think they did a pretty good job at bringing a character into a world who's kind of a fish out of water, who's not... Like, when he plays the Death Frolf, he can't get a handle on it. He's not doing great. And then the light bikes, he's like, oh, well, this is something I can do. Because they give him enough where they're like, we have to establish him as being capable and not like immediately being able to fight and stuff. So it's still like, it's still a stretch. Like, he starts like fighting people later and it's like, I don't know about that.
Right, yeah.
But they clearly were worried about that and they included it in the most ham-fisted way.
Right, yeah. He does a prank and then skydives off the tower. I'm like, all right.
You could argue that the original Tron, I don't know if it's better or worse. They just immediately know how to play the games. And I think
because he designed them.
Right, but like that doesn't translate into how to throw a frisbee, you know?
No, it does not.
But it works in the dumb, like, cheesy way where they're like, yeah, these are our games.
Yeah.
It's hard to defend this movie because it is extremely dumb.
Yeah, it's just really dumb. I
think
not
it's beautiful.
It's not hurting anybody.
No, it's not hurting anybody, and it is delighting me. I like that you don't see the sun until the very end. They make a like every scene not in Tronville is
Tronland.
Is either night or cloudy because the sun is like a reveal. Because that's a thing, is that, you know, all the light comes from the objects. I was watching the behind the scenes on the sets and the production design, and like, again, this guy's an architect, so much like Oblivion, they built a lot of this stuff. They probably didn't have to, but they wanted a lot of practical sets. They had to, like, you know, create these special outfits that they thought about, because they're like, these are digitally created outfits. They can't have zippers or seams or to seem like they were constructed. And they have special lights on them and stuff like that, which I thought was kind of neat. It's I don't know. It's a very cool world.
It looks very cool.
It's I love the look. I love the look.
Yeah, but
I think this is one of the most beautiful films like made in the last decade.
Yeah, probably. It's very cool. It's very distinct. It's just I can't get immersed in the world. It's not like watching like Lord of the Rings or something for me.
Oh yeah.
I was like, yeah, I mean, this looks real cool, but like, man, this is just dumb. Like all of this is dumb.
I don't know. I think it's just because it's tied to a real world. Like, besides the fact that this is not how computers work. taking that away, how's the internal logic? I would say the Tron character, it's a big problem, is that turn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Little things like Clue's helmet is dumb. This movie, by the way, when they were making it, they consulted like scientists. There's footage of like a group of real nerds
About
just sitting
what?
around discussing the science of Tron.
Sure.
It's very funny.
I would have liked to have known. I think the internal logic is mostly fine. Otherwise, it would have been a real problem for me.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have known more about the ISOs. They just give us a very jargony description of what they are and then just move on.
Yes, that was what like, and that's why I suspect when they talk to scientists about it, like it's the consultation where they're like, just give us words that we can mash together.
Mm-hmm. And
that's sort of how they explain the ISOs.
It's sort of like life spontaneously coming into existence in like the primordial ooze or whatever, only the equivalent is like, what if some type of life could spontaneously come into existence digitally?
Right.
It's a digital landscape.
I feel like we never quite explain the plot. Not that we need to, but that's the conflict, is that Flynn like accidentally creates life. He doesn't even take credit. Like life creates itself.
Right. He created the world.
Yeah.
Like the system, and then the life, the ISOs, which are this new life form, just came into being within that world. And
right.
Clue exterminates almost all of them except for Olivia Wilde. He thinks they're imperfect.
Yeah, Jeff Bridges creates Clue and says we're going to build the perfect system together. And then basically what happens is the ISOs are the answer. Jeff Bridges didn't have to create them, but Clue identifies them as imperfect because he doesn't understand. This is I think the vaguest part is why it's easy to just think that Flynn is just on drugs, because he promises, like when they set him up before he disappears, he says like he's going to change everything, like including religion with his discovery.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what he thinks that means.
I don't know.
The ISOs, does he know about the ISOs at that point? Is that the idea?
I believe so, yeah.
Well, then, yeah. Like, if the idea that he created life in a computer that is not just more than, artificial intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what the ISOs are. They're the singularity, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And in this version, they don't want to nuke us all. They're actually good. And there's kind of a message there, which is the idea that the villain in this is man-made, while the actual, like, the things that need to be saved are the machines who become self-aware, who are birthed purely from our technology.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of a cool message.
Yeah.
So, okay, that checks out. And then I guess that alone that makes me understand them more. I feel like the movie doesn't explain it as well as us talking about it.
No, it really doesn't. It breezes kind of right past it.
Yeah, because I had that question too, which I was like, what the hell are the ISOs going to do? How are they going to change the world? And I think what it is that their mere existence is what changes the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I'm not sure why. So spoilers for Tron Legacy. At the end, Flynn seemingly sacrifices himself by merging with his young version
reintegrating
of
with Clue. Yeah.
Yeah. And so Clue, he has to protect his real son from this artificial son. His son and Olivia Wilde, the ISO, they go to the real world. Mm-hmm. And then they drive off. He says he's gonna take back over NCOM. Mm-hmm. And he talks to Alan, who's throughout this.
Yeah. Well, in the beginning and the end.
Yeah. Well, he's a young Alan. You can see him. He did the voice of Tron.
Yeah, briefly. And Tron only says a couple of things, though.
And so I guess presumably he's gonna show the board Olivia Wilde and be like, look, and they're gonna be like, it's like a raver chick. And they're like, it's the secret to everything.
Yeah.
Look, I don't want to murder her, but I do want to dissect her.
Right.
At that point.
Like, yeah.
Because
also she's made of code, right? So it's like, man, this is I don't know what this is.
I wrote a Cracked article about this, which is that I think the thing that's going to change the world that they completely ignore is I think he just invented replicators. Like Star Trek replicators, where you tell a computer, create this thing, you fire a laser, and that physical thing exists.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if she's just flesh and blood, then he just created a person.
He did.
Yeah, and that's going to be tough for her. She has a social security number.
Right.
You kind of need one now. But, like, that's amazing. But she's not the proof of that.
Mm-mm.
It's that fucking laser, which
it's that goddamn laser.
Yeah, that NCOM's had since the 80s.
That can zap you into a computer.
Yeah, like in the first movie, it's like, oh, that's a teleporter. It can zap you into a computer and then spit you out, presumably somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And then in this one, they invent replicators, and neither time is that the thing they're talking about.
Yeah.
It's very funny.
Yeah.
Like he just leaves the laser in the basement.
He does, yeah. It's very Doc Ock's Arms.
Yeah. He's like, I created this AI.
By
Whatever,
the way, I created
matter.
these AI controlled arms that could literally change the world for disabled people. Right.
And then there's like an implied romance between them. I appreciate the movie for not
very lightly
doing that, because
they sort of hint that a romance could happen.
Right. Which I think the moment she meets other guys, she'll be like, oh, okay. Like, you're cool, man. You're cool, but I didn't realize
there were other dudes.
I have options.
Right, yeah. She hasn't met Jason Sudeikis yet.
Exactly. Oh. It's weird. Do you think... I really like her as a director.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think she's a better director than actress? I
don't know. She's a lot of fun in this, and she's good in other stuff.
That's the thing, and like... I mean, she can do both, so I don't know why
sure.
I'm worried.
I don't know.
But like, this movie always reminded me, like, I want her in movies more.
Mm-hmm.
She was great in House. I mean, as great as people in House can be.
That's true. She was as good as you can be in House.
Yeah, with what they're giving you, she took it and she did good. Yeah, I don't know. It feels like she was in what, Lazarus Effect.
Yeah, Lazarus Effect. She was in that fucking Richard Jewell movie.
Oh yeah. Did you see the Lazarus Effect?
I have not.
It has an amazing cast for a movie that is very, very average. Donald Glover is in there too.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and it's like, it's fine. It's like a horror movie, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's like a real horror movie, like a real middle of the road horror movie. It's no Tron Legacy, is what I'm saying.
It certainly is not a Tron Legacy.
Mm-hmm. Man, yeah, I don't. I think I said this at some point, is that we're not really at an impasse. I don't expect people to like this movie as much as I do. I think the only other person who lights up when I mention it seems to be Abe.
Yeah. Abe's really into some Tron Legacy.
And I want to hear what he gets out of it at some point, because
I mean, it's a very well crafted movie.
I did not one-upsmanship, a frame rate about a movie called Fantastic Planet. It's it's almost little over an hour. It's a cartoon. It's very abstract, but it's not surreal. Like, it makes sense. But it's also a movie that you can pick apart, because a lot of things exist just to look a certain way. Or like Aeon Flux comes to mind as I'd say Aeon Flux has more substance that people give it credit for, but it's also just like, it's batshit crazy, and it's more about like getting really high and watching it. And I think I have to put Tron Legacy like on that same shelf of like movies that are visually really fun, but they never can pass a certain level where like this movie doesn't, it doesn't speak to me in a very profound way or anything.
Sure.
Like you compared it to Lord of the Rings, like Lord of the Rings means way more as a film.
Obviously, yeah.
Yeah. That's a hard comparison.
I also like the one thing that really weirded me out was in Sam's bedroom in the beginning of the movie, he has a Tron movie poster.
Well, I think it's supposed to be a poster for the game.
And he also has a Black Hole movie poster.
Yes. I cannot explain the Black Hole movie poster. The implications I think are either that, because there's action figures too, and the idea is that Flynn clearly like left the Tron world and established
Tron
games.
as a brand, yeah.
Yeah, because they talk about it at the beginning. Like Encom's kind of.
But why would
I don't know what to compare them to.
Why would he call the game Tron?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I know why the Black Hole poster's in the kid's bedroom. It's because this director Kaczynski was at one point attached to do a remake of the Black Hole
no
for
shit.
Disney. Yeah. Don't know if that's still happening or not, but
yeah. Well, okay. In the first movie, the games aren't called. There's no game called Tron, right?
Mm-mm.
In that first movie, Tron is a bigger character.
Yes.
He helps Flynn.
He's still a secondary character, but yeah.
Yes, but to Flynn, he's the main character of Flynn's experience there.
Mm-hmm.
So when he comes out of it, he's not going to name it The Adventures of Flynn because that's not his style.
I think he might.
He might, but I think he heard the name Tron and he was like, that's a cool name. And I think he named it Tron in this universe, the same reason why they named it Tron in our universe, which is that what the hell else are you going to name it? That's the coolest word associated with any of this.
Mm-hmm.
It's a hell of a coincidence that Flynn also, I mean, it's not a coincidence because the writers get to decide, but I assume that was what I assumed about it. As he came out of it, he kept developing the games because he ran Encom, and he created like the main character was named Tron, and then it became like the Tron series and the Tron this and that.
Sure.
It explains. I know why they included that in because it explains why his son kind of knows what to do pretty quickly in a lot of situations because it's all just the shit that he knew as a kid.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
They have him say it a few times where he's like, "I have you as on my shelf." Where I thought like when he goes into the light beam, like how do you know how to hold up the disc like that? It's like, oh right, it was on the poster on his wall.
Yeah.
Like, okay. It's definitely like weird, but I get why they did that.
Yeah, I think that what made it more bizarre for me is that it was like right next to the Black Hole poster, which was also an early 80s science fiction movie by Disney that bombed. So it's like, wait a minute, what are we doing here?
There's definitely some meta stuff, I think.
Yeah.
Is like, I know, again, in the behind the scenes, one of the explanations that I thought was really fun, when like in the flashbacks at least, wouldn't you assume, and then I would have loved for them to do this, that all the graphics are like the old movie.
Right. Yeah.
The way they explain it behind the scenes, they're like, well, the way computer animate, like, why is there rain now? You know? Like, there's rain in the movie, and they explained it of like, yeah, it's the simulation slowly getting better. The way video games get better, or the way CGI gets better, it also got better with time.
Sure.
It slowly got better, so it looks better, and it's like, yeah, sure.
Sure, man.
Like, I mean, the real answer is we would never make it look like the old movie. That would be dumb.
Yeah.
But sure.
Sure.
But
if we're accepting that this computer can spontaneously create life, then I guess we have to accept that it can also make itself look better.
Yeah, that the graphics got better from the 80s. I would have, though, fucking loved for them to have done the old, like the shitty outfits and stuff.
Yeah.
For the flashbacks. That would have been amazing.
Yeah, that would have been really funny.
Yeah. It's a shame. Also, I like to imagine that the Daft Punk in the Tron world is just who Daft Punk is in that universe.
Yeah,
like they don't have Daft Punk. Yeah,
I think they're just they're like wandering spirits.
Mm-hmm.
They migrate from dimension to dimension.
They go where they're needed,
and they're always Daft Punk. They're always just those two dudes in helmets.
How often are there composer cameos in movies?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah, because I definitely want to mention the soundtrack, and I think this is why
the soundtrack is really cool.
Yeah, this might be why Abe also has a fondness for this movie. Is that I write to the soundtrack constantly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good soundtrack.
It's such a good soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
That Daft Punk.
Yeah, man, they're fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Weirdly, this one, the only Oscar this was nominated for was sound editing.
That's fucking weird.
It didn't get visual effects. It didn't get score.
Again, the visual effects are the biggest tragedy because I get why, because all the things that people are when you mention Tron Legacy visual effects, one image pops out for most people, and that's Jeff Bridges' ghoul ass face.
Yes.
His terrifying face.
His hideous goblin mug.
Yeah. There's also a few other, they had a body double.
Mm-hmm.
So what they would do is that they would have Jeff Bridges perform with like the Thanos makeup, the mocap stuff.
Yeah.
Then they'd have the body double perform and say the lines, and then they'd put the head on the body double. And I get it because Jeff Bridges, he's older. He might not look the same. But I think there were points where the head felt like it didn't match up. Like,
yes,
that felt like a problem too. Like the head was almost floaty in a couple of parts.
Especially the part I noticed it the most is when he's delivering his speech to his army.
Yes. He doesn't look right. He doesn't look right, folks.
He doesn't. He's fine in most of other scenes.
Yeah.
Or at least you get used to him.
Yeah.
But that's like the real problem.
Right. And it really is such a shame because if you took that visual effect out of the movie, it would be like, of course it would get nominated. People would remember this as having some of the best visual effects. It's not challenging effects. Like maybe that's why actually, because it's not hard to make the rest of these effects. They don't have to look like the real world. They have to look photorealistic, but like it's all metallics and glasses, it's all smooth surfaces. Mm-hmm. It's more like the production design. The art direction is amazing. And it didn't get nominated for that shit.
Mm-mm.
That's the shame, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, the production design, really.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And have you seen Oblivion?
I have not. I need to watch it now.
Yeah, I really like this director.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely, like you said, he built a lot of stuff. They did a lot of practical stuff that you wouldn't expect. He's doing the same thing with Top Gun. I really want to see his Top Gun movie.
Yeah,
or a lot of it's very practical.
He's very big on that. The interviews with like the production designers and stuff, and this actually sounds like it might have been a pain in the ass for them. They were like, I've never worked with a director that spent so much time talking to me about this stuff. Where like he clearly, since he's an architect, he bothered probably the art director and production designer more than a regular director would.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. And Oblivion is very similar, is that the movie takes place on this like it's like a Jetsons house. Like it's like a thing in the sky. And it's all just one set, and they did a wraparound screen instead of a green screen, so like it looked like the sky was around them. And like, yeah, when you see it, you're like, yeah, this is clearly someone who pays attention to that. I love this director, and I'm very excited for Top Gun.
Yeah, no, I need to watch Oblivion. It's apparently a graphic novel that he wrote.
Really? Oh, it's I mean, without spoiling it, it's fun. It's. I thought it was a lot of fun. I think I might watch it again soon because it's been a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah, and I don't know if people haven't watched Tron Legacy, I encourage them to, especially if they like doing drugs. I agree that it is too long, but also I wouldn't cut out Michael Sheen because when they do the fight sequence and they just keep cutting to him dancing.
It's pretty great.
Yeah, he's having a great time.
Yeah, he truly is.
He's really Michael Sheen.
He is Michael Sheening the shit out of this. Every time he pops up and does like a fucking weird ass character role, I'm so delighted.
Yeah. Yeah, you gotta watch all the Twilights.
Yeah, I gotta hack my way through the Twilights.
Mm-hmm. Gotta get that Michael Sheen.
Just bludgeon my way through those Twilight movies.
Yeah,
real fucking chore.
It's weird to put up like his character in this with like Apostle, where it's like Jesus Christ, like he really has range.
Yeah.
It's lovely. So yeah, I don't know. I think your reaction is perfectly fair.
Sure.
Would you? Okay. So I started this with this question, and we've asked this question a lot. So first of all, do you think this is a necessary sequel for the duology?
I think Tron is one of those movies where you could give it a sequel every few decades as technology gets better.
Yes. I agree with that because it's hinged on technology for visual effects.
Right, exactly. And that's sort of really the reason it's a famous franchise. It's just because of that. So yeah, I don't know if I would call it necessary, but because the first movie ends pretty finally.
Right.
But this was at least an interesting iteration of it, and it's just a real tech demo of like some pretty good filmmaking. Like it's a very well crafted film, and it looks so yeah, I think we could get another sequel maybe 5 or 10 years.
Yeah. Maybe even like a VR thing, or I don't know. Do you think it's better than the original?
I think this one held my attention better. But there's things about obviously there's iconic things from the first film, and I think the visuals in that were a little more interesting, to be honest.
Okay.
Because this movie looks incredible, but it's really just a further development of the kind of visual effects we're all completely used to at this point.
It's an interesting question.
Mm-hmm.
I went hard on this is the better one, Tron Legacy.
Yeah.
And it's kind of because of what you just said, is that each one is just like, this is essentially a remake, and each Tron can exist to just be an update.
Yeah, exactly.
On the visuals of the time. And by that definition, they're always going to be better. The original Tron, there's nothing special about the story. It's the least memorable part of that movie.
Yes, exactly.
Same with this one.
Like we said in the previous episode, the plot quite literally boils down to Jeff Bridges needs to print a document.
Yep. Yeah.
That's it. But yeah,
that is the entirety of the first one.
Yeah, I'd like to see something the next time they do this that's more than just, well, we have even better digital effects now, because like there's not much digital effects in the first movie. Like we went over, it's mostly animation.
I'd like them to get, and I have nothing against these writers. Like I said, I like this movie, and I like the first one, but the complaint is always the same, and I can't pretend like it's not valid, which is the story. And so I'd like them to use the exact same director for the sequel, if there's a sequel, and get better writers.
Yeah.
Make it more there is some cute comedy in this, but like they need to get writers who can put together a slightly more compelling story.
Yes.
I think the issue is always going to be that it's built on a foundation of nonsense.
Yeah. It is,
and they need to address that.
Its bedrock is gibberish.
Right. In fairness, I would argue that a lot of superhero films are too, but again, they have this internal logic that's good enough. The problem with this is it always starts with the real world. It's our world, and then in our computers is this. So if they can figure out a way to explain why this is happening and has been happening,
if they go more in the direction of like creating systems as digital petri dishes,
yes,
rather than actual computers that are meant to like run stuff, I think that's the better direction to go in, because then we can do away with the whole idea of these people are actually programs. Isn't that wild?
Right.
Like they're just
they should introduce someone who's literally like, we've been studying this. The first Encon computer was an anomaly. Since then, we've been trying, like someone who isn't Flynn also have been, and they explain like this was an anomaly in this computer, and we're trying to, or it would have been great if Flynn explained this. Mm-hmm. But you know what I mean? Like this was something special that had happened because this program or this, or quite frankly, I will accept the computer is haunted.
Sure.
If they were like,
throw some ghosts in there, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah. If they were just like, it's haunted, I'd be like, okay, you've answered a lot of my questions, surprisingly.
Putting my hand down, thank you.
Yeah. Haunted computer.
Haunted computer, okay.
Is it a great answer? No. But it's an answer.
It's an answer at least.
Yeah. I'll accept an answer.
Yeah. Literally anything.
Yeah. Just pull it right out of your ass.
Give me something.
Oh, any final thoughts on Tron Legacy?
Nope. I'm glad I watched it finally.
Yeah, I'm glad you watched it finally too.
Yeah, I bet you are. I can hear the joy in your voice. I can hear the twinkle in your eye.
This is one of the best days of my life, Tom.
The entire time we've been discussing this.
I love this movie. I can't wait to watch it again. Oh, Tron.
Fucking Tron.
Hey everybody, thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks for peeping with your earballs, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell I'm saying. I'm gonna go knock on the sky and see what it sounds like.
That's such a Jeff Bridges line.
Such a Jeff Bridges thing to say.
Yeah, it's perfect. They were like, because they had the advantage of knowing who that actor was going to be. Mm-hmm. So when they wrote it, they were probably like, well, we need him to be like, Jeff Bridges.
He's got to be like, very Jeff Bridges.
Yeah, I would argue that he's actually not that much like his character in the first movie, because he's too Jeff Bridges in this one.
Right, yeah.
But it works for someone who's been trapped. It's that character having been trapped for a while. So it's like, okay. Mm-hmm. He found weird like God stuff.
Yeah.
Anywho, check out our Patreon.
Yeah, that's how this series was created.
It was. It's Nolan Matten, right? Well, thank you. I should probably say what our Patreon is now that we've so perfectly plugged it. Patreon.com/gamefully unemployed. We have exclusive podcasts there, like Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, and Fox Mulder is a Maniac.
Woo! We also have a store at tpublic.com/stores/gamefully unemployed, where we have t-shirts, stickers, mugs, masks. Check it out. Or not. I don't care. I don't care what you do.
Right. It's, it's your life.
Yeah.
Do what you want with it.
It's entirely up to you, man. I don't know.
Yeah. You're in charge is the point. We have one more month of this.
What's it going to be? I don't know.
Should we let people vote, or should we do what we're gonna do?
Let's do what we're gonna do, which is just decide ourselves.
Yes, and then they can live with it. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that's my favorite way to do things.
Yeah. You're gonna you're just gonna take it. Mm-hmm. Just take what we give you.
Yeah, we're gonna clue our way through this. Oh man. All right, I think that's enough. I think we've talked for long enough.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Duology Theater is brought to you by Gamefully Unemployed. Check out our cool shit at patreon.com/gamefully unemployed.